What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by a special guest on this Sunday because it's March Madness, so I had to go to the guy I go to for draft intel. He is, of course, my buddy CT Fazio, basketball coach and draft aficionado. How you doing, CT? This is like Christmas for you.
It is. We're getting into that time of year with the drafts coming up. March Madness, best time of the year. But thanks for having me on the show. Always great to talk, Nuggets and NBA prospects with you.
Probably won't get to too much Nuggets talk today. We'll see. Maybe there's a prospect that you like for Denver, even though they don't have a pick. But
I have one ready. So
do you have one ready to go? So we'll have to ask you that at the end of the show. But this usually with the draft, because I have to watch so much NBA and obviously have a family and everything else outside, I don't watch college that much. I don't even really keep an eye on it until about now. But this year has been different for me, and I think it's been different for a lot of people because the top three prospects are just so intriguing. Every year, like I have my eye on Cooper Flagg because he's a big name, so I have my eye on him all year long. But this year, the top three guys to me have been so compelling because I watch them and I just think they have such a level of polish for a prospect. I think in years past, there's been guys that you like, even like an Anthony Edwards. You like his game, and you're like the athleticism, this and that, but we'll see how his game develops. With the three of Dybantsa, Boozer, and Peterson, what stands out is just they look so like advanced. Their skill sets are polished to me. Is that a trait you see coming in this draft class, but also just in recent drafts that guys are a little more polished than you remember?
Definitely, for sure. You look at last year, Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper were two guys at the top of the class who were both freshmen. I thought both of those guys were pretty polished, considered, to their standing as far as freshmen in the class. You look at this year as well. You look at, AJ Debansa, you look at Boozer, you look at Peterson. I think all those guys have different skill sets, which makes the discussion a bit more intriguing. But also that each of their skill sets are more polished, I think, than the typical freshman in recent memory. And I think we're seeing that trend as far as the draft prospects coming into the NBA now, where there's a bit more of a polish and a bit more, they're more furnished than recent memories. So that's been great to see. And even just evaluating them, all three different skill sets, that they all bring positive attributes to the table. And I think the discussion's been, really engaging as well, because some people have, Boozer at the top, they have Peterson, they have Dybantsa. You can go either which way, but, whichever preference you have, there's a way to kind of establish, which direction you want to go in.
And that's one of the things that's interesting. I've been covering the league for 12 years now. I've got friends in front offices and scouts and stuff. Everybody comes to Denver, I'll sit and chat them up. And this year I'm always asking this question about who's number one. And I love that I get different answers. And really everybody likes all three guys. It's just, it really does, because what you said, they're different skill sets. Yep. Different people like different things. So I assume a lot of the audience is like me, NBA sickos. Draft kind of starts around this time of years when you start to pay attention. So I'm going to let you kind of be our shepherd here. And I'm going to go in order for the first three at least. And I'm just going to ask you, Boozer to me is so interesting. Mm-hmm. And the comp I had for him was he reminds me of Paolo Banchero if Paolo was trying to be Jokic instead of Carmelo. Paolo has all this great skill set. And he's trying to be that mold of player. Boozer has a similar polish to his game. He can do a bunch of different things, but he's trying to be just like a two-man player and a five, he's trying to work within the frame of everybody that's on the court. So that's why, to me, early on, I thought maybe he'd have a low ceiling, but the more I watch him, I'm like, I don't know, man, the way the league is, it's a very smart league right now. You have to have a high IQ. You have to feel the game. I kind of think he might be my favorite in this draft. What do you think?
I agree with you. Coming into, I would say about January, I had Peterson as my number one prospect on my board.
Yeah.
I have Boozer now number one on my board. And it's more so of, Peterson, of course, I'm sure we'll get to him in a second, but had a bit more injury related things that have been going on that have kind of made me flip that. But Boozer's season, I think, has been truly historic. Duke is 32-2 on the season, 17-1 in conference play. He's 6'9", averaging 23, 7, and 4 on 59, 46, 4 attempts a game from three, 80% from the line, split, 66 true shooting. Like you said before, I think that was a really great point about problem solving. And you look at a guy like Jokic and Shea, two of the guys who we'd say are probably two of the best players in the league right now. And I think Boozer comes into the league as the best problem solver in this class as far as his versatility offensively. He's a guy who can give it to in the post and he can go to work. His passing is off the charts as well as far as skip passing, short roll, on the move, out of the post. And John Shire, their new coach, is a guy who runs a lot of NBA-style sets. And he's someone who's gotten the ball to Boozer and made him become more of a perimeter initiator. He's not just running action out of the post. And I think that's what's the most impressive about Boozer is that he's an inside-outside threat as a ball handler. Initiator. He's running inverted pick and rolls with him and with Gungbo, who's their big man as well. Can grab and go off the glass. He leads the country in box plus minus at 18.4, full 3 points above the second player, which is Yaxel Vandenberg on Michigan. And one more stat for you as well. Since 2008, he leads all freshman players in the offensive box plus minus. If you look at Zion and Michael Beasley, Kevin Love, and a freshman Cooper Flagg as well. So I think it's the offense that really is the draw for me at number one, where he's just so versatile as not only an offensive threat as a scorer, but also too as someone who's a playmaker and a problem solver that you throw a different varying of coverages against. And we're seeing that in the NBA, today. You look at going against Jokic, how many coverages he sees. Shea as well sees so many coverages. I think Boozer's the guy in this class you can give the most leeway to as far as he'll be able to pick and choose when to be able to set up his teammates, but also be able to capitalize for himself.
Does he have any bust potential to him? Because I think that was the fear, just given his measurements, is he looks like a big man who's not quite big enough for the NBA, maybe not as athletic enough. But again, I just think the basketball IQ more than makes up for it. But do you think he has bust potential in him? And I shouldn't even say bust. If you're picking number one, you need a guy to be a cornerstone guy. Is there a chance that he is good but disappointing as a top pick?
I think there's a chance Peterson's better than him. If Peterson's health is able to stay intact, which I think it will. I just think he's just had a little bit of complications this year. But I think Boozer's too good of a problem solver. And like we said, we're seeing that in the league now. He's just too good of a problem solver offensively, where he's just such an inside-outside threat, being able to shoot. And he's like tailor-made for the game now, as far as like someone in the front court who's able to initiate action out of pick and roll, able to capitalize out of the post, his passing, his rebounding, able to grab and go. Like, I just think he'll be able to be a nice fulcrum of an offense. And I think there's concerns, defensively for sure. He's not the most athletic guy out there at his position. The wingspan in particular as well. But I do think overall he has the safest floor as far as his offensive prospects is concerned. And I think defensively he'll get better over time. But he's also a really good rebounder as well defensively, which I think that adds into the calculus as well, where I think his defense will be able to be serviceable. I think in certain matchups he'll be able to, in the beginning, maybe we'll get a little bit, flustered as far as like 5-out offenses and things like that. But he's not going to be playing the 5, I don't think, in the NBA a lot. He's going to mainly play the 4 spot and then maybe shift to the 5 at times, depending on the matchup. But yeah, I would say Boozer for me at number one. I just think he's the most safe, and like, I don't know about bust proof is the right word, but maybe like definitely like with that, like he won't fail, I don't think, as far as the other prospects.
So let's go to the next guy on my list, which is AJ Debansa. And it's interesting because I feel like early in the season, what I heard from most people in the NBA was that Peterson 1, Dybantsa 2, Boozer 3. As the year went on, Boozer 1, Dybantsa 2, Peterson 3. It's like he's always the second guy. Yep. And I think there's a psychology to this. He's dominant physically. He's got a nice a game to him that's really impressive, and you could see him being a very polished individual. Footwork, jump shot, all that stuff you could see being really, really good throughout his career. But I think there's a wonder about how that impacts. Like unlike Boozer, where it feels like everything he does impacts the game and impacts winning. Dybantsa, I think, maybe learning that part a little bit. This is my junior scout, but does that track at all with you? Do you have any concerns about? I'm not empty stats or empty calorie stats. I think is too harsh, but that maybe he doesn't have the feel for the game as some of these others, and that's hard to build over time.
Yeah, no, I think for sure. I think especially throughout the year, I think what's been most impressive about Dybantsa is that he's improved steadily as the year has gone on, especially in his decision making. There is at times where he's gotten caught, in between game a bit, where he picks up his dribble too early, and that's something I've noticed in scouting him is that he's gotten better at that as the year has gone on. But I think what's really impressed me the most is his scoring. This year, he's at 25 points a game. He's leading the nation in scoring, 7 rebounds a game, 4 assists, 73% at the rim on 173 attempts, 21% assisted. So his usage is pretty high at 33% as well. So he's doing a bulk, basically almost all of the initiating and the creating for BYU. I just think he's steadily improved as the year has gone on. He's at 6'9". I think he's going to be a 2-guard in the league, which
really
I do. I think he's going to be a 2-guard in the league. Just at that
That's an
height.
Enormous 2-guard. Is there any other 2-guards that are 6'9"?
I think maybe Clay was like 6'7".
Yeah, that's not even close.
Yeah, it's not really
is
close.
A whole different level.
Yep. I think he'll be a 2-guard in the league. Just the ability of his handle. He's got a really unique blend of flexibility and bend on his dribble, versatility off the catch as well. And he gets really low on his gather dribble. That's something that I've really watched and kind of honed in on the scouting as well. But his passing really has improved too as the year has gone on. BYU, their coach Kevin Young was an assistant under the Suns last year, and they run a lot of Spain action, empty corner lobs, and he's been able to hit the lob man out of some of those sets as well. So
nice.
I just think that his ability as far as his flexibility, just his stride length as well, like a 6'9", is pretty uncharacteristic, and just able to get in the paint as well. Just he's been a walking paint touch, which we're seeing in the league now. If you're able to get into the paint, that opens up everything else, along the court. And you see in the NBA, like there's so much better spot up shooting, and I think that's going to really, really help his prospects, in the system that he goes into in the league.
Especially at 6'9", because it just creates inherent mismatch problems. If you can get into the paint, so you're a paint threat, but you're also that big, it's just hard for you to switch initial actions if you get a guy like that. So his athleticism is interesting to me. What level athlete is he? Is he a tier 1 athlete at the NBA level? A little below that? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say he's below. He's not, I would say from like a 1-foot perspective, off a 1-foot jump, he's not that athletic. He's definitely better off of 2. But he has managed to like leverage his athleticism, I would say, which more so is like his flexibility, his bend. When kind of talk about his athleticism, not really like the typical sense of like, can you jump high? It's more so of how he's able to like navigate getting into the paint. He's at 8.4 free throws attempts a game, which is really impressive that he's able to do that, for someone his size and with the usage that he's carrying. But yeah, I would say off of 2 feet, definitely he's more athletic than 1 foot, but and he's definitely improved as far as like his decision making, getting into the paint as the season's gone on. So I think that's something moving forward where he's been able to actually kind of mitigate settling for the mid-range, which was a little bit early in the season, which I saw was a bit of an issue. He's able to get like pretty far into the paint now and make decisions out of that and get to the rim. So really, really impressed with his paint ability. And I think the one concern probably is the 3-pointer, as far as he's not really a guy who's at volume right now, 4 attempts a game. And I think if he's going to be like the top guy in the class, he's going to have to really, really start to shoot more so out of the pull-up, which is something I'll be looking for as we get into the league.
So if we just look at his tournament here, and I should have done this for Boozer, we'll go back in a second, but they have the winner of Texas NC State in the first round. And then in the second round, should they advance, they have Gonzaga, and they'll be underdogs. They're 6th seed right now. Are there any prospects in there that is like, hey, you're going to want to see this? This is going to be Dybantsa versus, this defense or this player or something of that nature?
I thought Texas was in that was Texas in that region, or was it Gonzaga after?
Texas, NC State, it says on the one I'm looking at here, it looks like they might be that play-in. I'm not sure. But, yeah, BYU, Texas, NC State. Is that all right?
Yeah, no, I think Texas is that was the guy I was going to bring up to you as far as the Nuggets guy.
Okay,
but
let's get to it.
Dalen Swain, someone I'm really impressed with on Texas here. He made a jump from – I was able to see him a good amount last year in the Big East. He played at Xavier under Sean Miller, and then Sean Miller took the Texas job, so he followed him to Texas. Swain, I think, depending on what the Nuggets do with Peyton Watson in the offseason, I think he'd actually be a pretty intriguing replacement. He's someone who's really improved as far as his creation ability this year. It's up to 18 points a game, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 50, 35, 82 splits, only 84 3-point attempts. So that's not the most volume. And I think that's something we're going to see moving forward, is that he's going to have to start to really fire away from 3 a lot more. But 186 rim attempts at 65%, only 16.7% assisted. He's someone who's the handle has really improved this year. And I think he's a two-way player as well. His point of attack defense at 6'8". I think he'll be really able to shadow different guards, who are able to get into the paint and out of drop coverage as well. 6'8", he's malleable, really versatile as a ball handler in that aspect. He's done a lot of the creating for Texas. So that's a matchup I'm really, really looking forward to if Texas is able to get out of that first round matchup. Swain against Dybantsa, I think, would be really, really great basketball.
Well, hopefully that one happens then here. That would be in the first round then. So that would be a pretty interesting opener. I think it's good. I mean, a lot of NBA people like myself, the March Madness is where we get a first look at it. So I hope that we get a good test for Dybantsa right off the bat. I'm very locked into that one to see what happens. Definitely. Let's go to the other side of the bracket here with Kansas. So Peterson, what I say, Peterson's what I really mean when I talk about polish. Those other two have an incredible, something special about them. Boozer's feel for the game and all-around play. Dybantsa, just the smoothness mixed with the size. Peterson, to me, looks like Kyrie Irving in terms of how polished. Like the way Kyrie Irving's just body goes wherever he wants at whatever angle. Peterson is an unbelievable player when I think about how young he is and how easy the game seems to him. But the storyline with him, I feel, at least as far as the draft prospect goes, is this weird thing where he's not playing or, has been dealing with cramps and hasn't been playing a whole lot. But before we get to that, let's just break down his game. If the off-court issue, if the health issue was not a thing, this would be my favorite player in college basketball in the last long time. I don't know how many years. Do you see it the same way I do?
I do, definitely. Peterson was a guy for me who was number 1 on my board going up until a few weeks ago. And it's just because Boozer, the season he's having has been kind of like too tough to deny, putting him at number 1 at this point. Peterson is just, his injuries have definitely factored into the calculus there. He's had a hamstring injury. He's had some cramping, there was a big story that kind of came out about him the other day. He's at 20
back to high school. This is something like that. It's been known with him that he's been dealing with. Seems very strange.
Definitely.
He had a full body cramp that he described as like, what did he say? Life altering or something like that. It was so, it traumatized him.
Traumatic.
It was traumatic how much his whole body seized. And I think some of this is probably, I'm not saying it might be mental in terms of him shutting it down early, is probably him dealing with, I don't want that to happen again.
Definitely. And I give him a lot of respect for still playing, despite that. Maybe some prospects in years past would say, you know what, I'm shutting it down and I'm just going to prepare for the draft. But he's still going out there and producing for Kansas in this tournament run. He's at 20 points a game, 2 assists, 4 rebounds on 83% free throw percentage, 38% from 3. And I think the most impressive thing about him as a shooter is that he's at 13.7 3-point attempts per 100 possessions. And he's like mainly playing a lot off the ball as well.
Yeah.
And Kansas's like system that they have and like their environment is not really NBA conducive. Like he's not playing with a lot of spacing at all. He's playing like sometimes with 2 bigs as well. Yeah. So I think once we get to the league and he's playing as my favorite spot for him would be the Pacers with him and Halliburton and Nembhard as well. I think that would be a really dynamic fit. But I just think as Peterson, I think he's one of the most polished and most electric, I think, shot creators we've ever seen in the draft. And we've seen a little bit of that kind of dampen a bit just because of the health. The burst hasn't been there at times, creating separation off the dribble. We've seen also schematically as well. I don't know if you've watched any of the games in the conference tournament, but Houston was just completely blitzing him the other night. And like, he was making great reads out of the blitz, hitting skip passes, and like teammates just were like record scratching and weren't firing, threes. Like in the NBA, that's going to change. So, at times, of course, there's been a bit of indecision there with his passing, but I just think as far as like a nuclear shooter, a guy who's able to get into the paint, he's even despite the injuries, he's still top 7 in box plus minus on the year. 61% at the rim on 16% assisted, a 44% on catch and shoot threes as well. So I think the scoring package is really versatile, and defensively as well. I think he's a good 2-way player. Defensively, I think he'll be able to shadow varying initiators out of drop coverage. And I think that's the sell if you really wanted to put him at number 1, is that he's a 2-way guy and elite shot creator. And is going to be able to capitalize eventually off of the variant coverages that teams are going to be throwing at him.
So here's what you said, a couple things that stand out to me that I think are underrated when we're just watching a young prospect like this. One, his ability to operate in really tight, crowded spaces, to your point, not a lot of spacing, but yet he still finds little gaps and footwork sets it up so he can open up just the tiniest little pinhole of space to be able to get through and finish. It's unbelievable the way he's able to do that. And then the second part was what you said about being off ball. A lot of times when you get a player of that caliber, they're going to be on ball too much because get rid of it and you get beat down over time because a guy, guys aren't making shots or whatever, so you feel like you have to overextend. To me, he has the mixture of understanding how to play on ball and get open for himself and teammates and that same skill off ball. And that's why I love this dude's. When I talk about polish, I'm like, how does a guy have both of those things at such a high level this early on to his career? And then, oh, by the way, the talent, the ability to handle, shoot, and everything else to go with it. I think this guy is my favorite prospect of this draft. But again, the injury concern really does scare me. No matter what it is, mental, physical, combination of both, toughness or fighting through it, I have no idea. But that's enough for me to say, man, with two other good prospects, I just have to knock him down a little bit.
Definitely. And for me, it's Boozer 1A and Peterson 1B right now. And maybe by the end, if we see, maybe I'll decide to put Peterson back at 1. But Boozer he's had too good of a year for me to put him at 2 right now. Yeah. But like you said, I think was a great point about Peterson's off-ball game. Like if you see him, he's running around screens. Like even still, like he's not 100%. Like watching him play, and I saw him, in high school, of course, watch his tape before the season. Like he was moving at such an electric pace, just so quick off the ball. His movement, snaking pick and rolls, like it's not comparable. I don't think the way he was moving in high school to the way he is now. And I still don't think he's at 100%, but they're even using him off the ball, and he's running through pin downs, running through stagger screens. So just the way he's able to rise up and fire has been really impressive. And a game to go back and watch would definitely be the game versus AJ versus BYU.
Yeah, I remember it. The first half was unbelievable.
Yep. Peterson got the better of him in that matchup. And that was for me where even despite the injuries, that's the sell with Peterson, that game right there.
And it's not even the better of him. I mean, it was kind of a dominant performance. And then not playing in the second half. Dybantsa got going in the second half. Of course, it's a team matchup, not an individual one, but still. You watch those two guys and you go, Peterson's skill level is insane. I see somebody in the comments here, B. Kelly says, I don't see the SGA and Kobe comps. It's interesting because, I mean, the game keeps evolving. And so I don't see Kobe necessarily. I do see a little bit of Shea. And as I said earlier, I see Kyrie. Kyrie, I think a little quicker and shiftier, everything he's doing. I think SGA is like the slower shiftiness, but he still gets where he's trying to go. He's not trying to be like, as speedy as Kyrie is. Peterson's somewhere in the middle of that. He is pretty speedy. I don't feel like he's as herky-jerk as Kyrie is, but yet the body control seems the same. His ability to go left, right, up, under, reverse, he just controls his body in a way that makes it look so effortless. I mean, this guy, if you haven't watched him, you have to check him out. I think he's such a fascinating prospect. So real quick, Kansas is a 4 seed, and they could meet in the third round, the Sweet 16. They could meet up with Duke. Boozer, to me, is a winner. Like you watch him play, he plays winning basketball. Peterson, I feel like if they get that far, that game might be kind of a big one for me to really see what Peterson's about. And I hope he makes it that far because I would love to see him on that stage where they're an underdog and there's those kind of stakes just to see what he's able to put out there.
100%. I think that would be the game of the tournament. 1 and 2 prospects going at each other. And Duke has a really good roster. I think they have a couple injuries right now, so I'm not sure if all of their guys are going to play, but they have Isaiah Evans is another guy who's in their first round, going to probably be a first rounder this year. Boozer's brother is also on the team as well as their point guard. Pat Ngumba is also their big man as well. I don't know if he's going to play, but he's been a really good player for them. He's probably going to go in like the lottery, I would say. And then Kansas has Flory Badunga is another one who's really good for them too. So I think that matchup's going to be great. But Duke's point guard is hurt at the moment. But that game I think will be a great test for Peterson. But also too, I think Kansas has some guys that they can throw at Boozer as well. I think Badunga against Boozer should be a really great matchup. But I think that might be a game where that kind of flips the narrative a bit. Maybe Peterson goes back to number 1 compared to Boozer. 'Cause I think Boozer's number 1 right now for most people.
Well, why don't we take a quick break here? On the other side, I want to take a look, and we'll run through maybe 10 other prospects that are in this March Madness coming up this week. You have a couple I know, but I was just looking at it. There might be 30 players in this March Madness that are going in the top 40 or so. So we'll get to that and more all on the other side. First, let me tell you guys about Shady Rays. You know the moment, the one where you realize you left your favorite pair of sunglasses at the beach, on the roof of your car, or at a gas station 3,000 miles away? Well, I've been there too, but luckily for me, I found Shady Rays, who completely changed the game. They got sunglasses that are seriously good looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And the wild part is you can use or break them even on day one. Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair, no guilt trip, just replacements. So now you can actually wear your sunglasses without fear on hikes, at concerts, on a boat, wherever. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. Go to shadyrays.com and use the code ALLCITY for 40% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Also want to tell you guys about FanDuel, the presenting sponsor of this show. FanDuel has this incredible deal. College basketball is nonstop, big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every night. Now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Here's how it works. Build any college hoops parlay you like. The early tip, the rivalry game, the ranked matchup, the late night West Coast shootout. Mix spreads, totals, props, whatever fits your read of the slate. Then just apply that profit boost. These profit boosts helps out so much. Instantly bump up that potential payout. Go safe, go spicy, go with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com/AllCity to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18+ and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Minimum 2-leg parlay required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable boost builder tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. For Louisiana, call 1-877-770-7867. All right, back here with CT Fazio. We got Tim Legler back Monday, Wednesday this week. We've got Jason Timpf on Friday, Mark Stein coming on the weekend. So great week of shows for you coming up. But let's go to the draft. Let's go rapid fire now. So those three are the big names. Let me ask you about Caleb Wilson and North Carolina. What should fans be looking for if they want to watch him in this tournament?
Caleb Wilson, unfortunately, he's out for the year.
Is he really?
Injury. He is.
I didn't even see this. This is how tuned I am to the college game. So he's out for the entire season.
He's out for the season, yep.
Do you think this is going to drop his draft profile at all?
I still think he's a top 5 guy in the class. For me, I have him at 4 right now on my board, personally.
That's where he started the year.
Yep. So he has a season-ending thumb injury, but defensively, I think he's one of the top players in this class. Just a special motor defensively, ridiculous amount of ground coverage he's able to cover, 7'2" wingspan at 6'10". He was at 19 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists on 58% from the field, 26% from 3, which the 3-point, obviously needs some improvement. But as far as a guy as like a 4, I think he's going to be really a great fit next to like a stretch big, but also too as like a passing big as well. So like someone like a Sabonis, someone like, a great passer like Jokic or someone like that. He'd be really dynamic as far as like a weak side shot blocker. But also I think he's got a really budding offensive creation game as well. But the 3-pointer is definitely a point of concern at the moment.
So one of the guys I keep seeing everywhere, everybody's talking about this guy, is Darius Acuff. What can you tell me about this guy? Is he your guy? It seems like he's very polarizing.
Yes, I'm actually a big fan of Acuff. There's definitely been a bit of discussion, I think, over the past a week or two about his standing in the class. But I'm a big fan of Acuff. He just won the SEC title today with Arkansas. He's 6'3", and I think what's probably notable about it is the defense is pretty poor right now. But as someone who's able to process the game on the move as a point guard with the ball in his hands as much as he has has been really impressive. He's at 44% from 3 on the year, six attempts a game, 183 attempts. He's really functional as far as like a ball handler is concerned. He's got great counters set up in the pick and roll, playing with Trayvon Brazile, who's another guy who's going to be a first rounder, probably on my board at the end of the year. But 23 points a game, 3.2 rebounds, 6.4 assists, only 2 turnovers a game, 9 3-point attempts per 100. So he's just a guy who's really able to create separation, getting downhill into the paint, really able to use some of his core strength as well to really fend off defenders and get into the lane. Where I think the defense is definitely going to be problematic, but as a rookie, I mean, all rookie defenders are an issue. But
he's especially bad though. I've seen the low light reel. You know, when people start making the low light reel, you know you have an issue there, and his low light reel is pretty bad.
Definitely, for sure. You know, teams are gonna be able to shoot over the top of him, and not even just like mismatch hunting in the NBA. Like you look at teams now, like you're able to really emphasize like putting him as a low man, which is a problematic on the backside as well. So there's like more ways to really kind of go at smaller players than just like mismatch hunting, just like getting downhill and like posting them up or just trying to get through one-on-one. But you got a really special scoring package. I probably have him within my top 10, haven't finalized it yet, but someone who's a really special scorer, especially as a processor of the game as well, just able to hit skip passes and playing on the move. I think the offense is really dynamic.
And he's with Arkansas right now. I'm trying to find who they play in the first one. I don't see who it is. Oh, Hawaii. They've got Hawaii. Yep. And then they have Wisconsin in the second one, so that might be the one. They're in Arizona side too. Whoever comes out of that little quadrant will have a nice little test. Who's the next most interesting guy we haven't talked about yet, in your opinion, for NBA draft purposes?
Yeah, I would say for me, I think Yaxel Lendeborg on Michigan. Michigan's been one of the best teams in the league this year in college basketball. They actually have 3 pretty dynamic prospects on their team: Ademara, Morez Johnson, and Yaxel. There's been a bit of back and forth about who's better between Mara and Yaxel. I prefer Yaxel. Yaxel is a guy who started his career, actually just started playing basketball in high school as a senior.
Something's sliding around the mic there.
He started as a senior in high school playing basketball, so he's still pretty new to the game. Even though he's a bit on the older side, 23 years old, started his career in JUCO and then went to UAB, and then now he's at Michigan.
He's 23, so he's kind of old.
Yep, he's an older prospect for sure, but I just really buy his all-around skill set. I was able to scout him in person this year playing St. John's, so I was able to see Michigan and them play. 6'9", 240, 14, 7, and 3 on 50, 34, 82 splits, 4 attempts a game from 3. Hybrid forward, can play 3 and the 4. And he actually started out as like more of a big man at UAB, which I think has kind of helped him a little bit as far as his physicality is concerned, you know, playing a bit more on the wing. 74% at the rim, 51% assisted, 125 attempts. He's got a 7'2" wingspan. And if you look at like past guys in the class who have like been first rounders, you know, you look at like a Siakam or an OG Anunoby, a Cedric Howard, you know, Scotty Barnes, you know, J-Dub. There's been like a pretty good track record of guys at that size and have that physical tools and that wingspan that have been able to stick in the league who've actually been able to like really translate their game really well. So I think he's a guy who's going to be able to fit into a winning team immediately, but I think he'd be a great fit anywhere, but he's second in the country in box plus minus at the moment, right behind Boozer. Really good as a connective passer as well. Like a really big and physical wing that can shoot, dribble, and pass is someone that teams just need. Every team needs, you know, in the NBA.
So I'm curious if teams start to do this with this new CBA. It's hard to find cheap contracts, but you have to have a bunch of them. I wonder if just drafting 23-year-olds is the play, especially in the middle of the first round when you're talking about, you know, fringe playoff, you know, trying to get into contention. If you can get a guy for 4 years from 23 to 27 and then maybe extend them for another 4 years, 3 years, you just get them through their entire prime, as opposed to picking up 19-year-olds. At that point, you're trying to get a star, so it makes sense. But short of a star, like a surefire star, if you could just get a 22, 23-year-old and be like, we're going to get his best years, or he's going to be on the team for that, it might be the play. So a little bit of an older guy, kind of interesting. All right, who's another interesting prospect?
Another guy is Zuby Ejiofor from St. John's. This is, maybe a
your hometown pick.
Personal bias a little bit, but I do think Zuby's going to be a first rounder in this class coming up. I just think the production is too tough, great to ignore this year. He was Big East Player of the Year as well as Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East, back-to-back conference champion. I think he's probably going to be an All-American this year as well. He's a guy who's at 6'9". He's pretty small for a center, but I do think he'll be able to play the 4 in the NBA, especially with him playing with a stretch big. But he's got really physical attributes where he's able to hold his ground against bigger bigs. We saw last night in the Big East Championship, he's playing against Tyrus Reed on UConn, who's another guy who's going to be in the NBA coming up, and he was able to kind of hold his own. So really great as a rim runner. Can really pass the ball as well. He's at 16, 9, and 4 on the year as far as his splits were concerned. The shooting is definitely an issue. He's at 31% on the year, but somewhere he's steadily improving, I think, his shot. But someone who's a bit older on the older side, but is really productive. Good passer, really good touch within the paint area as well, and someone who just plays extremely hard. So I think he's someone who's going to be able to crack a rotation pretty early on in his career.
I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't prep you for this one, but is there a matchup in round one where there's multiple NBA prospects on the table? If you're able to kind of scan it real quick, I'm just wondering if I tell people this is the game to watch because you want to watch the prospects, you'll get a bunch of them in this game. What would it be?
Yeah, let me see the bracket here. Definitely.
I mean, Arizona has a handful on them, so I wonder maybe if you go more second round or third round, you get into the Wisconsin or Arkansas, you might get a handful in that one.
Yeah.
Arizona, I think, has 3 first-rounders, projected first-rounders.
Arizona's got a couple. Yep, they have Braden Burries.
Koa Pete.
Yep, Koa Pete. They have a couple guys that are NBA guys. For me, I like Alabama as well. LeBaron Philon is a guy who I'm pretty high on in this class as a shot creator. Guy who's been able to really navigate and pick a role this year and improve his shot creation ability. He's a bit on the smaller side at 6'3", so the defense is definitely a little bit questionable, but someone who I think is going to be able to fit in an offense playing on the ball, off the ball as a catch and shoot player as well. He's one of my favorite guys in the class. Yes, Krivas as well. They're big men. That's the third prospect.
Yeah, I mean that alone has got to do it. And then when you just went through a couple on Arkansas and some different people, they'll probably match up here quick. That quadrant, by the way, the Eastern Quadrant, UCLA, Louisville, Kansas, Duke. There's some heavy hitters. Michigan State, some heavy hitters all in that one. UConn, all in that one bracket. So you're going to have a lot just on that one. All right, give me a list. Maybe just throw out a couple more names to keep an eye on. Maybe these are late first rounders or guys that you think people are sleeping on.
I think probably I'll go another guy that's pretty high up in the draft. I'll go Michael Brown from Louisville.
Yeah, Louisville.
He had a bit of injury issues this year, a little bit, but he's someone who I've been impressed as far as just his ability as a pull-up shooter. Just able to really just take a lot and make a lot of threes as far as his pull-up ability is concerned. He's 6'5" as well. And I think he'll probably go within the top 10 of this class, but he's a bit streaky, but he also is registering a 30.4 assist percentage on the year. So it's something where he can show his passing a little bit out of pick and roll, where he's not just a scorer. I've been pretty impressed with his passing as well. A guy 6'5" that can shoot like that and has the range and can kind of pull some gravity with the shooting ability, I think will be really impressive as far as his I think his tournament run. He actually has a chance, I think, to really be like a guy who like scores a lot and like is carrying his team throughout the tournament. But
yeah,
for his NBA prospects, I think he'll be a guy who's able to play on and off the ball, but that shooting is something that should translate.
I saw a tweet the other day that was like, you can't explain the love a man has for the undersized, low-efficiency guard that lit it up when he was a kid. It's so true. Those players in March Madness that go off, it doesn't matter if they're gunners or inefficient or whatever. We all remember them when they catch hot for a March Madness game. Well, I'm excited for it, man. I think it's going to be a great one. Let me see here if I got it here. Yeah, I'm trying to self-produce today, so I've been trying to figure everything out on the fly. I'm excited for it. March Madness, the NBA is great from the end of All-Star break till right this week. This week, the NBA starts to mix some matchups. They try not to throw their fastball this week because March Madness, those first 4 days are just fantastic. And I know for a lot of NBA heads, it's the first chance to get into the draft. So I thought I'd just give you a couple names for you to look at, to go over. We'll probably tweet something out that has a list of all the NBA prospects. So you want to stay locked to our social account. And CT, anything you want people to know, this is kind of your time of year when you start to take over. So anything you want to give people that they can follow your work?
I appreciate it. Thank you for being on, Adam. Always great talking Nuggets and draft with you. But I have a big board coming out within the next week or so. I'll definitely be live tweeting some of the games of the prospects, evaluating their play coming up, and I tweet about the Nuggets as well and some of the analysis of their games. So, but this is definitely the time of year for March Madness, best time of the year. So, big board coming out, and I'll probably have some more draft content as we move forward into the summer. So, thanks for having me on. Always appreciate it.
You bet, man. Nuggets have been taking such tough L's for the last, month. I'm just beaten down. I'm ready for March Madness. Let me turn my attention to something that can't hurt me.
Good segue.
Yeah, he is CT Fazio. I'm back with Tim Legler tomorrow to talk about the weekend's games. We'll see you guys all there.
We all silly like the mayor.